Alright, welcome back to another Crabby Dice Talks, Rants, and all that stuff about Kickstarter. So today we're going to be looking at the two highest funding projects right now, Darkest Dungeon, Nova Aetas. They're both doing really well. So if you've never seen one of these videos before, 100% my subjective take, alright? On the campaign, we're going to talk about value, we're going to talk about gameplay, future value, all that stuff, alright? What do I think of the game, the gameplay? Reading the rule books, going through the playthroughs, all that stuff. Alright, so smash that like button, smash the dislike button, do what you want. Let me know in the comments below if you are backing the games, if you're excited about them. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get started. Alright, let's get things started here with the first game, Darkest Dungeon, the board game, because this is based obviously on a video game IP that everyone probably knows, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know already. This one's doing absolute gangbusters. They're gonna probably cross $3 million, 20,000 backers, still 7 days to go. Probably more unlocks are coming, and so on and so on. So this one's doing really well. Probably on the backs of both the IP and Mythic Games in general, which release quality products. Even though they have their issues with the rule books and stuff, their product is really high quality, great minis, great art, great graphic design, and all that stuff. All right, so let's take 2 seconds and talk about Mythic Game. They are falling into the CMON trap, though. I find they're sort of releasing more campaigns than games at this point, and they really need to focus and catch up, because I have no idea how they're going to catch up. They have like 6 games in the pipeline now. They say this one's going to get released by next November or something. Not gonna happen. I'd be surprised if you get this by November 2022 or something, or the year after. All right, so keep that in mind. It's gonna be tough for them to catch up. Just to give you an idea, Solomon Kane's already a 1.5 years late, and they have 5 other games that they need to work on before they get to this one. All right, so they're a bit of a thing like CMON, where they need to catch up to sort of, you know, release all these games. All right, but let's talk about the game. Alright, so this is a dungeon crawl, alright, but it's a roguelike dungeon crawl. All roguelike means, all that word means is there's permadeath in the game, and it's generated dungeon, so you're just gonna grab a tile randomly, and so on and so on. So yes, there's permadeath in this game. Yes, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't let that scare you off if it is. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about value, because they're going to, half this page is all about the minis and what's in the box, and that's what they're trying to sell, right? Because Mythic Games is a miniatures based company, most likely. Almost all their games are just chocked full of minis. They give you like 10 boxes worth of stuff in just minis, and you got to store it somewhere, right? So let's talk about the base pledge. I'm going to say the base pledge is close to unbelievable value. Okay, if you are interested in this game and you just want to try it out, I don't think you'll go wrong with the $100 pledge. You'll get 2 gigantic boxes full of stuff. There's the core box and the stretch goal box, and for just $100, that's amazing value. Ton of minis, ton of cards, ton of dice, ton of components, ton of tokens. You get a ton of everything. All right, for $100, it's great. Just to give you a frame of reference, Veiled Faith that I covered in my last video, for example, was like $75, 85 with the minis or something. You got almost nothing in that box. It was garbage. For this one, $15 more, you easily get 5 to 10 times the content in the box compared to that game. All right, just to give you an idea. All right, so that's the base pledge, unbelievable value. But there is a second pledge level here, which is the Crimson Pledge, which just adds an expansion. Now, what I'm going to say is, if I were to back this, I would definitely get at the Crimson Pledge, because there are some unlocked stretch goals tied to this expansion. Plus, you're going to save $5 overall on the expansion price anyway. It's only $50 more, and you just get a ton more stuff, so might as well get it at this pledge. All right. Before I go further, I just want to talk 5 seconds about this mini. I absolutely love this mini. He's so long. I have no idea how he's going to stand up properly. I figure if this head was even 2 millimeters off the ground, this thing would just tip over. And his legs are way too small, way too much negative space in there. It'll be interesting how this thing turns up at the end. Alright. Alright. Alright, so still at 150, you're still getting unbelievable value. Now let's talk about the add-ons. There's only 2 add-ons to this campaign, but they're big add-ons. All right, there's 2 big expansions, both $50. So an all-in, looking at the big picture, is going to cost you $250, which isn't bad. It's still less than a lot of CMON products that are going to cost you over $300, $350, $400 for an all-in. Monolith, all these companies, if you want to go all in and get 5 boxes worth of stuff, usually you're paying over $300, $350. For this one, it's only $250. It's not that bad. The value is pretty good. Again, I absolutely love this mini. The king, the dead king with the gigantic cleaver, it's pretty cool. Alright, so you have one that deals with the Warrens, and this one deals with more water-based enemies here. Alright, so there's the value. Pretty outstanding. What I would suggest is either go for the Crimson Pledge or the all-in, just so that you cover your bases with the stretch goals add-on, so that your future value holds higher value. I don't know how else to say it, because if you want to sell it later, people are going to want those stretch goals and Kickstarter exclusives. Now, if we want to talk about future value, looking 2-3 years down the line, I think it'll hold its value. Mythic Games, so far all their games have held their value. There's so much plastic and stuff in this game. The only way it won't hold its value is if it's as bad as, let's say, Dark Souls, and doesn't capture an audience and people don't like the game. Then people are not going to want 5 boxes of this stuff on their shelf, so then it'll be hard to get rid of it. But if it's at least a decent game, then you'll definitely make back your money. I wouldn't even worry about that. All right. Plus, there's so much plastic in this box. You can use it for your D&D game. It'll be fun. All right, that's pretty cool. All right, so now let's talk about gameplay, and this is where I have some major issues with the game. So I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom. Hopefully I don't lag on my screen here a little bit. There's still minis and minis and minis and minis and minis and how to play and all this stuff. And here we go, and we finally get to some screens with gameplay. All right, so gameplay. This is a dungeon crawl with permadeath and so on and so on and so on. Let's talk about some good things, and then I'm gonna sort of dump all over some of the mechanics later on in the video. Okay, so some great things. All right, first, the whole fighting system, really simple. It's a simple targeting system, simple crit system. I actually really like it. It's not a system where you need to look up tables or spend time calculating armor versus defense versus this versus that, trying to figure out a hit score, whatever. It's mostly you calculate it really fast, really easy to understand. It's not that hard, so that's good. It's more of an entry-level thing, so that keeps it simple. That's good. I do love the unique maps. So this is something that you see in Batman Chronicles and Conan. I starting to hate the whole hex / mini squares method of these dungeon crawls. It's driving me crazy. I prefer this a lot better. It makes more sense, more thematic sense. You can have long corridors, which is one long space, or you can have these tight quarters, which are little spaces in certain areas of the map. Plus the light makes a difference in the game, which is very cool, very thematic. So really good. I really love the map. It's good stuff. Now, the last thing that I really like is the whole campaign / boss structure. So the way the game works is you do you don't play like a 30+ hour, 50+ hour, 100+ hour campaign in this game, right? You're gonna go through like a 3-act structure where you're facing 3 different bosses. And what's cool about the game is every boss is gonna sort of affect all aspects of the game. So it affects when you go back to town, he affects the town, he affects the dungeon, he affects the battles. So until you beat the boss or face him, he has like an influence over the game. I find that really interesting, really thematic, really engaging, good stuff. And the whole campaign system, since it's shorter, you can get through it much in a shorter time than you would in a massive thing like Gloomhaven and all that sort of stuff. Although one of the negatives is you don't get a huge arching storyline in this one. It's mostly just going from boss to boss to boss. Not really stories that you're going to develop made by the game. All right. So that's the good stuff. Now let's talk about the bad stuff. So there's 3 main things I want to talk about. A, the fiddliness of the game. B, the complete overall randomness of the game. There's way too much randomness. And C is what do I have written here? And C is the stance system that makes absolutely no sense in a 3D plane. So which one should we talk about first? Let's talk about the stances. All right, I sort of get what they were doing because they're sort of copying the video game and all that stuff, but The stances made sense in a 2D plane, because if you're looking at a 2D plane, all right, if the characters are lined up here and here, well, yeah, it makes sense, the stance system, because the people closest to the opponent are going to be more aggressive and do more attacky type thing, where the people in the back are farther away, so they're going to be doing support and all that stuff. To me, if you're going to translate that into a 3D plane, seriously, they should have just dropped the whole stance system, because it doesn't make any sense in a 3D plane anymore. Alright, so if you're not in a 2D plane and you're in a 3D space, either make everyone be able to go in every other stance, or just get rid of the stances altogether, because it no longer makes sense. So if my priest is in the corner with 4 enemies around him, he's stuck in support mode, where the rest of the party is on the other side fighting a boss. And what chances do you have against those guys if you can't even do an attack, if he doesn't have a support attack or whatever? Sure, you can switch down one level and sort of do an attack type thing, but let's say he had a powerful aggressive spell or something, he can't even do it. Right? So it's very limited in that aspect, and it's not thematic at all, in my opinion. Let me know below if you disagree, if you think it's thematic, whatever. Alright, next thing I want to talk about is the complete sheer luck of this game. Alright, I realize that in a lot of games, obviously there's a lot of luck. It's not based to be a super grand strategy game, but in this one it takes it, I think, way too far. Almost every aspect of this game is driven by luck. Alright, and it gets to a point where I think you're going to win or lose based on the luck of dice and random stuff happening in the game. Alright, so just to give you an idea. Before you go in the dungeon, already, I'm trying to find the picture here, you're rolling your provision dice, which are random things that you sort of have. So random provisions. Then while you're going through the dungeon, you're going to roll these random dice to see random things that are happening. So random events. So every character is going to roll 2 dice. So it can either be blank, or you're facing traps that can give you 3 to 8 damage. Alright, but it's random. Alright, and then you can use one of those random dice to face one of those random events, whether they match up or not. So if you roll a bunch of potions, guess what? They're not going to help you against traps, or against darkness, or against a bunch of other things. Alright, so random against random. Another thing, the random placement of these tile boards. Alright, you can go into a dungeon and have a quest. It could be the first tile that you enter and engage with, or it can be the last one that you'll never get to because you'll die before you get there. So the tile placement is completely random. Alright, then after there's the just inherent randomness of the battle itself, but that's fine, that's sort of par for the course. Then what else? Then the worst randomness of all is the whole permadeath system. I hate it. Okay, so they have this whole thing called at death's door. So if you die and lose all your health, you don't actually die. What happens is every time you suffer damage from then on, you need to just roll a d10, and if you roll a 3 out of 10, or 1, 2, or 3 out of 10, then you really die. If not, you basically just negate that damage and just continue. So it's just complete randomness whether you're gonna die or not. You can just go full-fledged and like play you know, super not strategic and just end up rolling through the whole thing, just being lucky not rolling that die. Sure, it might not be smart, but you can get away with it because it's only 3 out of 10, 30%. You know, so just randomness with that. Alright, there's also randomness in the town. So one of the things I really hate. So when you go back to town, you draw a card, I believe, and it's going to tell you how many days you have in town. Why is that random? Like, why can't I just do all the things I want to do in town and then go back in the dungeon? Why are we wasting time and doing rules for the town? It doesn't make any sense. So if you draw a 2, you have 2 days in town, only 2 of your party members can level up. Alright, the other 2, well, even though you had the XP to level them up, well, they can't level up. Like, it's kind of stupid. Like, just think of it logically, it's unthematic and kind of dumb. Okay? Okay, so that's the randomness overall. And then finally, just talk 5 seconds about the fiddly nature of the game. Sorry about that, I lost battery. So what was I saying? The fiddliness of the game? Yeah, there's huge parts of the game are pretty fiddly. The worst part is probably these dungeon room tiles. It's so, you have these tiny chits that you're placing randomly on this tiny board, and then you're gonna remove the board and bring it back every time you have to do a battle or go to town. You're moving the board, putting it back. So it could have just been a nice cleaner system. You don't really need this board and these random chits and everything. It could have been easily done in a card system, would have been the same thing to introduce randomness. Just shuffle up the deck and take a card off the top of the deck and it'll tell you what you're facing next. Like, you could have changed it in a way that'll make it less fiddly. I just don't like the fiddliness of this board. Plus it's small, and in the end doesn't really change much from board to board. Whether the line is connected to 2 or 3, it doesn't make that much of a difference. It has minimal impact for all the fiddliness that'll introduce into your game. All right, so that's the whole campaign. So mostly good, some bad things with the gameplay. Again, they give you great value. It's Mythic Games, established company. You'll get your product for sure. If you're into the IP, you'll probably like the game. And there you go. Those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below if you're backing it, if you're excited, why you don't like it, why you like it, so on and so on, what you think of what I said. Let's go on to the next one. All right, here we go. So the next one we're going to look at today is Nova Aetas. I hope that's how you pronounce it. All right, so this is another sort of dungeon crawl, but you're not really going through dungeons. You're more above land, and it's more of an adventure style game where you're moving your character from tile to tile, having battles, following a story. You're following missions. After every mission, you're advancing the campaign. And after hours and hours of campaign play, you're going to get to an ending. All right, so it's that style of game. All right. You're more following a story than you are in Darkest Dungeon, where it's not really a story. Okay, so this one is doing really well. Just a recap here, we're at 700k, 5,000 backers, still 2 weeks to go, so there's plenty of time. So this one will probably cross $1 million with a late campaign surge. Brought to us by Ludus Magnus Studio, which, if we have to talk about it, has sort of a sketchy past. The quality of their games is out of this world. The art is fantastic. The components are fantastic, but you know, it's a mixed bag looking at their past releases. So their best game up to now is Black Rose Wars, which people are getting now, and it's apparently amazing. I don't have it, so I haven't played it yet, but all the reviewers say it's really, really good, so I'll take their word for it. Their other games were Dungeonology, which it's sort of a mixed bag. A lot of mediocre reviews and subpar reviews. A lot of luck in that game. And then they have Sine Temporum, which again, mixed bag of reviews. And I'm missing a game, but it'll probably come back to me later, which again was mixed bag of reviews. All right, so what you do get from this company is amazing minis, amazing art, amazing components. All right, so that's where we start off when we're going to talk about value. Alright, so let's just talk about value now, because obviously the pledge levels are here. So it's 120 bucks, and you know what, the value is really good. Alright, for what you get in the box, it's pretty darn good. Alright, last I saw, you get like 80 plus minis, and like I said, these are probably the best minis you can get in Kickstarter. Their minis are fantastic. If you just look at the Dungeonology ones, the Black Rose War minis, and they are out of this world. Okay, so you're getting fantastic components here. You're getting these amazing folding character sheets. I have Claustrophobia on my shelf. I absolutely love these sheets that you put on top of the character sheets, or foldable sheets, anyway, whatever, sheets on sheets. Fantastic, easy way to track everything. All games should have this. It's like the new thing that all games should have. You get a ton of cards. You get the 27 missions, and they're still unlocking more. So these envelopes are missions, and then all of the missions put together is a full campaign, so keep that in mind. You get 3D terrain, which is pretty funny. It's not like the highest quality thing, but at least it's 3D terrain. So when you're fighting on the map, which you see below, you're fighting in 3D terrain, which is pretty cool. One of the best positives. I'm going to talk about this later, but you get the Horocleum. I don't even know how to say it, but we'll just call it the hour, black and white hour tracker. There you go. We got a map, rules, blah, 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 a bunch of things. Just so much stuff in this box. So it's worth 120 bucks. All right, I'm going to tell you it's worth it. Now, you could, for 150, so it's $30 more, get this Hyperion expansion. Now, the biggest selling point for this expansion, to be honest, is that you can use this character in Black Rose Wars. Now, if I'm backing this game and I don't have Black Rose Wars, I would not give a darn. But you do get a gigantic mini. I think he's like 100 mils or even bigger or something. He's pretty massive, and 3 other minis, and it's for 30 bucks, and you get another mission. You know, it is worth it, right? You are getting a ton of stuff in this box. You know, if you want to sell this Black Rose Wars on the afterwards to somebody who has the game, who cares? All right. you sort of do also have to back it if you want some of these extra add-ons here, so keep that in mind. Now if you want to take 2 seconds, we'll talk about the other add-ons that they've unlocked, just to talk about them quick. There's a $50 Under Siege pledge here. Is it worth it? Look, I mean, it is 50 bucks. It's quite a bit. Is it worth it for you? It's 10 more missions, so it's like $5 a mission, which I think is pretty darn good. You get a ton of minis. You get this super cool wall that you get to fight on and stuff like that. So you're probably doing like a Game of Thrones type thing where you're having guys up here throwing arrows at the people trying to attack. That's pretty cool. So you know what, I would definitely get this. If it's probably the best expansion or add-on that I've seen. All right, so add another 50 here. Then there's a couple of mini expansions. This is just one model. All right, it's 19 bucks. Is it worth it? I don't know how big. Oh, it's 75 mils. I don't know. It's up to you. It's one extra guy. And then you have the Metachlorian clone over here, the Medicio, whatever, for 12 bucks. You know what? Before Disney sues them, they're probably gonna have to change this model, but sure, why not throw it in? All right, so there you go. So a full all-in add-on, full all-in pledge will cost you in the range of like 230 bucks, which isn't bad. You do get a lot of stuff for 230 bucks. So what I would do is either go, you know, you don't need some of this stuff, the Minotaur, the Metachlorian here, you don't really need him. You might get him, you might hold value later on, who knows. So there you go, there's value. So the overall value is pretty good. Now if you're gonna talk long-term value, I think it'll definitely hold its value. Like if it's anything like a hit like Black Rose Wars, even Dungeonology, which is getting mixed reviews and it's not that good of a game after reading some reviews and reading the rulebook and all that, that's definitely holding its value. So games that just have this much plastic tend to hold their value, especially if they're like in the top 2000 on BGG, right? Like even games that are just bordering on the top 2000 end up holding their value. I mean, then you have stuff like Demon Souls, which I mentioned in the last part, which, you know, that one you can get for pennies on the dollar because nobody really likes that game, right? So there you go. All right, so now we're gonna sort of pivot here and talk about gameplay, and this is where the game shines. I've watched that 4-hour playthrough. I read the rule book. I watched a bunch of the rule videos. The one thing I will say, it's kind of weird that there's almost nobody covering this game. Hopefully I'm not gonna lag while scrolling up. There's not that many like playthrough videos. There's how to play, but there's no like actual gameplay. So maybe in French there is, or in other languages, maybe in Italian here, but in English not really. And you would think that you'd want to like focus on the English language, but anyway. So after all that research, I have so many good things to say about this game. I might just cut it off because there's so little bad things to rant about, and that's why it's, if this was any other company, I might have just backed it, but because it's Ludus Magnus, I don't want to take a chance and get burned. I'll just buy it on the secondary market for even more. It doesn't really matter if it's that good of a game. All right, so let's just start with the whole campaign mission structure. I absolutely love it. So just to give you an idea here, what you do have is envelopes in the box, and these envelopes are your missions, and after completing all the envelopes, so right now they're at like 27, 28. If you get the expansion, you're at 38, you're close to 40. So if after 40 missions, you're going to complete the grand campaign, and after the grand campaign, you can hit one of, I think it's 8 different endings. All right, so that's pretty cool. So there's replayability. You can play differently and see if you can get one of those other endings. What else is cool is that these missions are really thematic. I like it. They even introduce like this time stories type element where there's the pictures, and you know, you can do things on the pictures which will take time, but you'll get different results. You talk to the old man, you go gamble. It'll take you time from your mission, but you can get benefits out of it or detriments or whatever. It's like a story thing. It's really good. All right, these cards are really clear. They tell you how to set up the game, how much time you have to do the mission, where to start the hour, black and white hour thing, what your mission is. When you complete it, you flip over, it'll tell you, okay, now you got this mission, go to card 29. So it's like time stories, like you're going through the deck, or mostly the unlock, where you're going through the deck, going to get a special card, you're gonna read the card, maybe flip it over, there's a picture, go get something else. Really good idea. I really like the system. probably one of my favorite mission campaign systems that they have. It sort of reminds me a bit of Chronicles of Drunagar, which had that book where you can do actions on that book, where if you see the gargoyle, you pick a thing on the gargoyle, and that really appealed to me. It's good stuff. All right. So I talked about the mission system, campaign. Another good aspect of that, it's easy to expand, right? All you do is, they could have an expansion with just 10 envelopes, and that's just like 10 more missions, and then you don't even need to sell anything else. So this game is easily expandable because of these envelopes. All right, keep that in mind. Other great things, so just these one-off things. 3D terrain, that actually matters. You can go on top of the terrain, you can hide behind trees and stuff for cover, so that's fantastic. There's a crafting system in the game. That's amazing. There's no other game that I can think of that has a crafting system. So you're collecting like leather and salt and all these things, and all these, then you're make a sword, make a bow and arrow, make some arrow. It's really good. All right. Combat skills give you scenario skills. So as you're going in the story, you're unlocking regular skills, combat skills, but those combat skills tied to regular skills that you might have. So that's amazing. So like you can almost think of it like if you unlock a skill that's run faster, so you can move an extra 2, but that might give you a scenario skills called jump or climb, because you're more athletic now, so you're able to jump and climb. So during story moments in the game, you can use now that combat skill into a story skill. So they're all tied together. So that's really good as well. So a lot of good things. The whole hour, black and white hour system, I really like it. So it's almost like Francis Drake or Glenn Moore system, where the person in the back always goes first, and if there's a tie, then you go by the person's skill, whatever the skill, I think it's called rapid or something. And it's really good. So you can always decide to just move up a little, so that'll be your turn again faster, or you do a gigantic action, which is 5 action points, but it won't be that player's turn for a while. So you got to keep that into account. It's really engaged. So some fantastic mechanisms going on in this game. And I think that another fantastic thing, I just have to mention this, is that when we're talking about scenarios, the one thing that almost every other game of this ilk does is, after you do a mission, you're sort of transported out of the game and you're reading a book and you're doing something else, right? This is probably the most thematic game because you actually stay on the map at all times. So let's say you have a battle board. I'm trying to find a picture here, I can't. But you do a battle on the battle board, right? While I talk, I'll try to find it. When you beat all the enemies, well, you're still on that battle board. There might be an inn there. You go inside the inn, you interact with the people, but you're still on the board. And then after you leave, you go north, you uncover another part of the map, you flip over the map, okay, it'll spawn some enemies, and then you keep going. It's like the story keeps going and the mission keeps going on the same level, terrain, and everything. You don't have to leave, come out, like in Darkest Dungeon, do something, okay, now we're transported back into another room with these enemies, whatever. So you're always engaged. You even heal in between. So let's say you take care of all the enemies in that room, well, Sally can go be doing mission, like scenario stuff on that board, and then Bob, who has an injured character, can just be in the corner, just keep on healing himself, and he doesn't really have to deal with any of the scenario things while he's healing himself, right? So really good mechanisms here. Just really good. I mean, there's close to no bad things. There's almost no bad things that I really found. There's only like a couple of stupid things, like you can throw weapons at your enemy, if your partner's not next to you, or your teammates or allies not next to you, you can throw it to them like 4 squares away and roll for it. Kind of just added rules for complexity's sake. You don't need that stuff. It's a sprawling board, but what's good is that you can start removing the old boards when you're advancing. Just like I said, you're always advancing on the same boards. Well, I can already sort of see that you're removing the old boards as you move forward, like a side scroller 2D thing. All right, sorry about that. The last thing, this one's already going way too long. I want to end this, but the last thing I want to mention is the combat system and how I love the combat system. So the combat system they use is a 10-sided die system, which is fine, doesn't really matter. But what's ingenious about it is that you only roll for yourself. You don't ever roll anything for AI, which is great because you don't have to waste time. The game flows a lot faster. The AI will do what it has to do. When the AI attacks you, you basically roll your defense. All right, you never ever roll anything for AI. AI can have a stat line of it attacks one space away for 6 damage. All right, when it's his turn, he's gonna go up to you and attack you for 6 damage. You're gonna look at your defensive skill. You're gonna try to block it. All right, there's no time wasted rolling for AI. Trying to get lucky that he misses a roll and all this garbage that can happen. It's all based on your characters and your strategy and your equipment, trying to block it and all that stuff. So all really good things. So that's my overall thoughts on Nova Aetas. I really like it. It's a shame that it's this company. You know what? Hopefully they'll release a 2.0 version or a newer version in the future if this one takes off. But I'm really looking forward to this one a lot more than Darkest Dungeon. So those are my 2 games today. I usually try to keep these under 30 minutes, so I won't talk about a third game today. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you want to back this one. Hopefully somebody in my game group will back it. And we'll see you in the next one. Later.